Start with breaking news for you this hour. Flydubai pilots were forced to work flat out, and they warned the company it would lead to a crash. Those are the revelations RT has obtained from a former pilot at Flydubai, the company operating the tragic flight which crashed in Russia's city of Rostov-on-Don on Saturday, killing all 62 on board. He asked us not to disclose his identity, and we have disguised his voice.
When I was still at the company, it was one of the last things that I told management was that there would be an accident, and it would be because of pilot fatigue. The way that they build the schedules, they do not allow pilots to get the right amount of rest or the proper rest before a flight, and that is exactly what both of these pilots were, the situation that they were in, for sure. I think that there was a survey done at some point, and the company was very mad when the survey got out, because they were not the ones that set it up. But one of the questions was, do you think there's going to be a crash? And over 80% of the pilots that participated, which one was me, we said yes, there will be a crash at Flydubai. And it's unbelievable. I mean, they knew this was coming. They absolutely knew it. I wish it didn't happen. I wish it wasn't true. I personally lost friends who were crew on that airplane, but I wasn't surprised. If there's any airline in the world that has everything set up for a crash as this one, it's Flydubai.
Well, RT's Paula Sleer is standing by for us. We'll be talking to her very, very soon on all these revelations she's discovered from this pilot of Flydubai. For now, though, RT requested a comment from Flydubai on the claims that we heard from their former pilot. So far, we received no response, but we will update you as soon as we hear some. However, immediately after the crash, the company's chief executive had this to say.
The hours, the captain flew 5,965 hours. The co-captain 5,769 hours. So in that context, that's quite experience. For every operation, there is always enough fuel to hold a flight, and then to go into an alternative airport. So as far as that is concerned, that was already, there is enough fuel.
Well, the flight from Dubai missed the runway as the pilots attempted to land. After attempting to land for a second time, it's believed the plane lost speed and went into a free fall. 45 passengers and 7 crew members were killed in that crash. All right, let's get some more details now on what the former Flydubai pilot had to say about the company. Let's cross live to RT's Paula Sleer, who's been speaking exclusively to him. Paula, good morning to you. Do tell us a bit more about the man behind these accusations. How did you find him in the first place?
Well, after the plane crashed on Saturday morning, I reached out to the crew, the pilots of Flydubai. I saw that many of them were posting messages of condolences and support online, and I was asking whether anyone wanted to talk to us. They were all afraid to talk to the media because they felt that there could be repercussions. But word got out that I was looking, and I was contacted by a former captain of the airline who is based in Doha. He told me that he had some important information to give me, and he wanted to meet with me. When I met him, he was visibly shaken. He hasn't eaten properly or slept properly since the crash on Saturday morning, and he said he was motivated to talk to RT because he knew many of those on board, and he felt that the truth needed to get out. As he put it, passengers buy a ticket, they put their life in the hands of the pilots and the crew, and they have a right, we have a right to know what is happening. He holds the management of Flydubai 100% responsible for the crash. He says, to quote him, that the schedule of the pilots flying that plane were horrendous, that they were not sufficiently rested to be at the controls, to fly a plane and to make decisions. He backed up his claims with data, including the flying schedule of the first officer. Take a look.
Neither pilot had much seniority in their seats. They were considered pretty junior. Therefore, they would have been getting pretty bad flights, long night flights, a lot of night flights. And they were probably very, very tired and very fatigued. I've been able to get the first officer's roster, and he was working 11 days in a row with the exception of one day off, which was Tuesday, March 15th. Everybody at the company has these dangerous shifts from day flight to night flight, and then back to a day flight, and then back to a night flight. And it has definitely been, you know, a big issue for a long time. I know that when I was still at Flydubai, there were meetings every 2 weeks with the chief pilot. And from what I understand, in most of those meetings, this was always brought up. And in fact, one of the meetings, the chief pilot referred to us as a bunch of prima donnas, like we complain too much. That's exactly what he said. He said, you guys are just a bunch of prima donnas.
Paula, so discussing the issues of pilot fatigue and working very, very tough schedules, I suppose the question should be, how legal is this kind of rostering system?
Well, the question of how legal are these rostering systems is exactly the question I put to this former captain. And he answered the question by saying that it is legal, but there are many things out there in the world that are legal but are simply wrong. He said that the captain of this flight, who had already resigned and was actually on one of his last flights, one of the main reasons, if not the main reason he had resigned, was because of his flying schedule. He simply just could not keep up with it anymore. He also gave me a report of one incident at Flydubai where the two pilots that were at the controls filed a report afterwards in which they admitted that they had fallen asleep for some 8 minutes while at the controls while flying out from an outstation. Every month, this is common practice across the airline industry, pilots need to fill in an air safety report. They fill it in after every flight, and there is a monthly report that is put together. We have more data. We have many of those ASRs that were filled in at Flydubai, and if you look at them, you can see just how often pilots were filling in the words fatigue. It shows you just how widespread the problem is.
With such a high workload and jumps between days and nights, I quite simply cannot work anymore without becoming a safety risk.
I am constantly tired because of the many day-to-night body clock changes. I have no problem doing night or early morning flights. All I ask for is that there is a pattern in the roster.
It is increasingly impossible to operate safely in a habitually body clock changing roster with minimum days off to recuperate. Flight safety is being compromised by a roster which allows no proper periods of stability or recuperation.
I've been filing reports like this for a year, as of many others. It is cynical of the company in the extreme that in this period the situation has been allowed to get worse and not better.
It is almost an open secret in the airline industry that Flydubai pilots are extremely fatigued. And this is a huge issue, the whole issue of pilot fatigue. Another reason this former captain gave me as to why he was giving the story to RT and prepared to go on record with it is that he says he hopes the issue will now be blown open and the result will be much safer airlines, particularly here in the Middle East.
All right, Paula Slee live in Dubai. Thanks for that, Paula. Now, RT has requested a comment from Flydubai on the claims that we heard from their former pilot. So far, we have received no response, but we will update you the moment that we do.